Hello, welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match preview show as Villa take on Leicester at Villa Park, 3 p.m. kick-off tomorrow. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by the Athletics Aston Villa correspondent Jacob Tanswell to preview the game. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to get 20% off everything Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you'll get that 20% off. I think it is full price items only, from what I hear. Right, Jacob, how are you? Fresh back from Bodymore Heath. So we're doing this show straight after you've got back from the press conference. How was it? How was our friend Unai?
Yeah, it's good. Yes, apologies for the delay. I guess we were scheduled to do it for 3 p.m. I will take some of the blame because of the traffic heading back to Sutton Coldfield, but also if Unai is going to look at himself in the mirror, he needs to take some of the blame because he was 15 minutes late as well. So really, it's both of our faults. But yeah, he was in good form. Didn't talk for too long. He rarely does. There wasn't actually many journalists there today, which I thought would be a bit of a surprise considering the Pau Torres injury news that we were all suspecting, and obviously the transfer window as well. But he was good, and I think as you'll probably see tonight from the embargo section at 10:30, there'll be more on transfers, and of course Emery's getting his thoughts on the overall balance of the team so far.
Okay, so that's interesting. So there is some transfer news. You did speak about transfers, but you're not allowed to say anything until 10:30. Did you just say?
It's always 10:30 embargo. Yeah.
Is that a normal thing? Is that a Villa thing?
No, it's all everywhere you go. It's a blanket thing.
Okay.
Every club I've been at, it's always been 10:30 embargo. It's mainly been put in place for the newspapers the next day, but maybe that needs to be tweaked now. We're in a bit of a more modern times. Who knows?
I mean, was there anything? Don't obviously tell me what it was. Obviously, we can talk about some transfer stuff that was broken yesterday. But was anything interesting?
I think there's some more transfer questions really on players that have been obviously reported and their futures are uncertain. But yeah, I can't really say anything because I'll probably get in trouble. Yep. I've been in trouble before, so I'll keep it still.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want to get you in any trouble at all. Now, if this graphic that I've done here works, it'll be an absolute miracle for those watching on.
It worked
YouTube.
In rehearsal.
It worked in rehearsal, didn't it? But will it work now? Yes,
there we go.
It does, Jacob. Wow. There's your tweet from earlier. I mean, I don't know what we've been quite jovial, but this is actually bad news because Pau Torres, as we suspected, has suffered a broken metatarsal and he's going to be out for 2 months. Unai also revealed in his press conference that Diego Carlos is unavailable for the game, as well as Jadon Philogene due to injury, and of course Rogers and Duran are suspended. So, with that in mind, Jacob, Villa are quite light for tomorrow. Those of you watching on YouTube will see my predicted team ahead of the game. So, with that news in mind, I've gone for Martinez, Cash, Concert, Mings, Luca Dean, Kamara, Barkley, Bailey, Tielemans in the 10, John McGinn, and Watkins. I've given you a lot to go on there, Jacob. Just how much of a blow first is the Pau Torres news, because it was a big part of how Villa play. I think there's games where it suits Villa to have Tyrone Mings in, and actually maybe tomorrow is one of them with Jamie Vardy up front in the way Leicester might play. But in terms of build-up play, to not have Pau Torres for 2 months, that's a hammer blow for the club.
It is, and it's only probably about a month or 2 months ago that everyone was praising Pau Torres's passing ability. He's a lot more adventurous this season. His positional map shows that, and he's really important to how Villa play, especially this Villa team that are dead set on trying to play out from the back most of the time. And as we've spoken about a few times, and we wrote pieces on it, there was always that hope one day Tyrone Mings and Pau Torres could play together.
We're just never going to see it. We're destined to never see it, Jacob.
No, exactly. Two boats passing in the night. Really, it feels like that, doesn't it? In terms of playing together, there's always one injured, and obviously Pau Torres sustained that injury against Brighton. He sustained a similar injury in terms of time length this time last year actually as well. I was quite surprised he played the Brighton game or started the Brighton game. In truth, I thought maybe that was the time for Mings to come in, simply for rotation, and Power has been quite vulnerable in playing games in succession throughout his career. That shows in his career evidence really, but he's going to be a big miss. I think there will be certain games where we'll look at it and think, I wish Pau Torres is there, albeit he's probably not been at his best in recent weeks. And I think defensively, there's a lot of areas to improve on.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Carlos out as well, that pretty much is a certainty that it'll be Concert and Mings. So they'll be playing centre-back. I guess Luca Dean will still line up at left-back, although Maatsen probably needs some football because he hasn't had much over Christmas at all. Matty Cash is back from suspension. So kind of the back four picks itself. But I guess after that, you're then looking at players that maybe like Swinkles, who may have gone out on loan. that isn't going to happen now. We think Villa might be in for a defensive reinforcements anyway by getting one defender in, but this injury probably doesn't dramatically change the transfer plans in terms of incoming, because I think they'll do what they were going to do purchasing wise in defence anyway. But for Swinkles, that probably means he gets kept around.
I wouldn't be too sure on it. I think.
Oh, okay.
I still, in my understanding, I think Swinkles will still leave, and Wickham have been credited with NJs. We've reported it for a few months. I think he will leave. Same League One clubs, do like him. I do think they'll let him go, but obviously tomorrow they probably need him in the immediacy to be on the bench. So I think he probably would have gone alone already had it not been for these injuries. I think really the consequential defender that could impact is Diego Carlos. Really, if Torres was fit and you had Mings and Consa, then you could probably allow Diego Carlos to go a bit sooner. He still could go, but obviously rely on Villa signing a centre back. But I think everyone at Villa understands that Swinkles is a player for the future. Signed a new contract recently, but he needs that maturity. He needs to grow physically, and he has to go on loan. Really.
Yeah, so my team that I've predicted here on social media that I did earlier, someone did actually reply to me, and I agree with what he said. He kind of stated that, well, actually, if Rodgers isn't playing because he's suspended, you might need Ramsey's ball carrying for 60 minutes.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a big ask for him to start the game, having not played much recently. I think I'd rather have him as an option to bring off the bench rather than him start. But looking at the team that I've predicted there, do you think I'm far wrong with that? I think Barkley's due a start. I would say I'd class him, McGinn, and Bailey as the three ball carriers in there, and he likes to have three ball carriers. I guess if you put Maatsen in there, you class him as a ball carrier, so that would add another one. But I've plumped for Luca Dean. Do you agree that would probably be the team? Did Emery give any hints?
No, I'd like to see Barkley start. Like you say, I think he's due a start, but at the same time, Onana's this £50 million signing, and
I mean, Jacob, he put in one of the worst 15-minute cameos
I know.
ever seen the other night. He looked like he'd never seen a football before when he came. He was surprised when the ball came to him.
I think he's better starting games than coming on.
Yes.
I would be surprised if he didn't play. I think he was okay against and quite good actually against Man City. So I do think
he was very good.
I do think he'll play instead of Barkley just because of I think he's obviously of higher pedigree and standing, and I think they probably want that athleticism in there. And I think Barkley's probably better coming on in games. At 60th minute, I'd rather bring Barkley in for the final half hour than Onana. But I think that's a really good point. And like you said, with Ramsey, we've been in this situation before. You've got to be careful with him, right? Because how many injuries has he had in the last 2 years? And he's a player that you have to get up to speed slowly. I was quite surprised he played that much against Brighton, to be honest with you. I didn't think he could play at all. So I think that was good signs that he can come back or can start games sooner. But I would expect him to start tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got Michael Huggins in the comments saying Happy New Year to everyone and saying sorry to be late. Don't worry about it, Michael. We're doing the show and we were late, so you don't need to apologise for being a watcher and being late. And hello to Stato as well, saying hope that everything's well. Hello, Stato. Always love to hear from you. Sai AVFC said here he's a bit concerned about Mings lasting the 90 after he struggles at the end of the Brighton game. Was there anything in that? Was it cramp? Was it a knock? Did Emery mention anything?
Yeah, he said afterwards it was tiredness and fatigue, and I think you can see Mings was stretching out his calf at times. He did that in the previous game he started against Brentford, and I think Sai's got a really good point. I'd be quite concerned about him playing the whole 90 minutes, especially if it's a really tight game and a tough game. And Vardy, although he doesn't sprint as much as he used to, he does sprint. He probably sprints to 6 to 12 times running in behind, and they're going to be really sharp movements, and that's going to test Tyrone Mings' muscles, aren't they? So I think there will probably be a point where you see him holding something or clutching something, and if he can get through 90 minutes, it's great. But at the same time, you've probably got to put contingencies in place. Who's going to play centre back? Maybe towards the end of the game, you could see Luca Dean play centre back. I think that's a position.
Jacob, I don't want to be saying things like that.
That's a position that he feels he's comfortable in, and you can
really. Where have you pulled that from? I've never heard you say that before.
Well, I've been told he feels he's comfortable in centre back. Obviously, you probably wouldn't want him to play there, but if you want to try and get Maatsen in at some point and the game's going like that, I think he'd be fairly okay there. I think he's quite good at defending
in a back three. I'm not sure about two centre backs, Jacob. Back three, yes.
Villa can play a back three sometimes, can't they? So, but that's just like I'm just thinking of scenarios. Try to be a bit creative. If Mings can't play, but that is a concern. But I expect him to be fine.
I mean, you were quite creative in the last show that we did, and then we did get a long throw at the end of the game, and I did think, is this the moment? What did Jacob know? But no, nothing happened. Nothing happened at the end of that game. Villa lost all composure. Tony Lincolnshire Villain says, will Maatsen be in the squad after having his first child? I mean, there's something in the water at the moment. I think Barkley's had a child recently as well. I would expect that Maatsen will be part of things, having just had a child. Congratulations to him, and congratulations to Ross Barkley as well. I'm not sure if either of them watch, but no, anyway, congratulations. But something definitely in the water at the moment. Let's just talk about Leicester. Actually, Man City obviously having a difficult time, won the game last time out away at Leicester. But from what I saw of the game, they actually did okay. Had quite a lot of the game. Leicester actually made stuff happen and created chances. What have you made of them under Ruben Nistelrooy?
I think they're more attractive to watch, aren't they, than they were under Steve Cooper. But at the same time, I still get the feeling that they're a slightly too naive. I think obviously Ruben Nistelrooy is a young manager, hasn't got that much experience, and I think at times he's been quite naive. I think when they were away to Newcastle, I thought they set up pretty poorly. And if you look on paper, without wanting to tempt fate, I don't think they've got a very good squad. I think they're probably one of the worst, if not the worst, on paper squad in the league. So he's probably got his hands tied behind.
Your team, Southampton, might have something to say. No,
genuinely, for all their faults, on paper, I'd rather take some of the Slamford players at Villa, for example, like we mentioned with Kyle Walker-Peters, than some of Leicester. Yeah. Dibbling as well. But I look at Leicester's squad, and I think there's so many areas that Ruben Nistelrooy can't really coach. So like they have Connor Cody and Vestergaard starting the last game. These are guys that they have their faults. I think Cody was better in the back three at Wolves. Vestergaard had one good season at Southampton. He can't move. He runs in treacle, and he's basically a poor man's Pau Torres in terms of he's only there because of his ball progression, which is good, admittedly. But my God, he's slow. He's slower than me, I think. Dan, and I'd have a bet with him on that. So I think they're certainly more attractive on the eye, but I'm not sure if the substance is there.
Okay, ABFC Stato's very lively in the chat today. So Jamie Vardy has scored 5 goals in his first 6 Premier League appearances against Aston Villa. However, he hasn't scored in any of his last 6 against Villa in the competition. He's still, for me, I still watch him and think he's still got an awful lot to offer. I find him an incredible footballer, incredible character. And I actually said it in the summer transfer window when I was on Sky and got mixed reception of this statement. Bearing in mind that he's won the Premier League and he also holds the record for consecutive games scored in, Vardy is in the top 10 Premier League strikers of all time based on everything he's achieved and his goal record, and factoring in that he's playing for Leicester. So he might not have the raw pace that he used to have, but he still plays on the shoulder very, very well. Still times his runs very, very well. He's still an excellent finisher as well. He is someone that Villa have to be wary of tomorrow.
Yeah, he's kind of a dying breed, isn't he? He's got the character, he's got the bravado. He doesn't mind winding up opposition fans. He's rough around the edges, and I really like how he's evolved his game, because I used to think that he was all about pace, and when he hits 32, 33, maybe a little bit later, he always strengths would be taken away, and he'd probably retire, pretty relatively early, actually. But the way he's evolved, he's got a lot more brains than I initially gave him credit for, and he looks like a veteran that knows his game inside out now. In terms of, I mentioned it earlier, he's not sprinting as much, he's not pressing as much as he used to, but he just knows when. He's similar to Ronaldo. He knows when to use the movements. He's very efficient in his energy, very efficient in his runs, and he always preys on the weaker defender. So if Pau Torres is fit for tomorrow, he probably would prey on him. It'd be interesting to see who he really leans or gravitates towards tomorrow. But I think he's a really good striker. He's kind of had a renaissance, really, because during Leicester's relegation season, even parts of their championship season, he was in and out of the team, starting on the bench, and you thought maybe his days are numbered now. But he's come back. He's the main man again, and he's really, really key leader in that side. And actually thinking about it, I probably would say he's in the top 10 to 15 Premier League strikers of all time.
Yeah, there we go. You agree with me then, which is nice to hear. I don't know whether you watched any of my solo show post Brighton, Jack. You probably didn't. I'm imagining not many people watched it because it's just me talking on my own for 15 minutes. But Ollie Watkins obviously is going to lead the line again tomorrow against Leicester with John Duran out. We still don't know if Duran will get an extra game, I can't see that they're going to punish him for booting a water bottle. He might get a fine, but I can't see that they're going to give him extra games. If they do, there's 100% an agenda against Aston Villa Football Club and John Duran, because the ban he's already got and the game state that he left the Newcastle game, Villa have been punished enough, in my opinion, and John Duran's been punished enough. Watkins, I said in that show, is last season he was running on pure instinct, some great finishes. He had a moment in that Brighton game where he kind of drove into the box, and it was reminiscent of the West Ham game last season. Last season, he did a couple of nice little step overs and then lashed it in on his left foot. This season, he took too long and he got tackled. That's been a pattern, particularly recently, where he's taking a little bit too long, he's delaying too long, and I don't feel he's making the decisions on instinct that he was making last season, whether that be deciding to dribble with the ball, hold the ball up, laying it off. Saying that, he scored a penalty, which was a lovely penalty, and he's got an assist with a sumptuous pass in that game. So, not having Duran breathing down his neck, I think actually does him favours in some respects. And you always feel like when he hasn't got that competition, he will score. But this is the kind of game we need to get Ollie Watkins back to what he was doing last season, because those things that I've mentioned, I think they're a problem for Villa in attack.
Yeah, and I think you got a really good example in terms of the step over. I remember that West Ham goal he scored on the counter, step over, briefly in that left foot, and that's fantastic. And it was all very smooth. The ball never stopped. He never stopped it. It was just really fluent action. When now he's getting into that similar position, edge of the left-hand side of the box, and he's stopping, the ball stopping. The defenders are able to slow him down. He's stuttering almost. He needs to be more fluid and smooth in his movements. And I think he was I felt very frustrated for him, and I think he felt very frustrated in the Brighton game because things weren't quite happening. He was getting in and around the box. So he won a few really good headers, actually, which was absolutely fantastic. And it showed and it reminded people that actually he's really quite a good aerial box threat as well, but they're always straight at the keeper. And there was a moment, I think 10 minutes into the second half, where he got that assist, and I thought it was a lovely assist.
Really lovely pass.
And I thought he was coming back into his own. And then he had a few more of those chances towards the end, and he was stuttering again. But at the same time, everyone was not everyone, but a lot of people on social media were very critical of Watkins. But he's still got 8 goals this season. He's gotten a goal and assist that game. He's still performing reasonably well, actually. But compared to last season's level, he's obviously dipped. And there's a number of, we've covered it before, a number of mitigating circumstances, that injury, playing through injury, truncated pre-season. But I do honestly think he's still Villa's number one and best striker. He's still got a good amount of goals. And I think his link play when he came to feet in the first half against Brighton was quite good. I just think he needs to do more of it, more games. And I think if we have this chat in 2 games' time, Dan, I think he's got a few goals and he's playing a lot better as well.
Yeah, I agree with you at the terms. I think he is still Villa's number one striker, but I will say that I also understand why John Duran was picked.
Yeah, of course.
When he was picked, and he scored goals and everything that he could do this season to get himself in the team. But I still just think if you've got both playing at the absolute top of their game, I still think Watkins is the superior striker for me, and the one I'd want in my team if Villa had a cup final tomorrow. But that's just my opinion. I know there'll be plenty that will disagree and will think that it should be John Duran. I want to talk. We will do this transfer show. I keep saying that we're going to do one. We will do one. Although I might need you to fill in for Greg on Monday, Jacob, because I think Greg's away. Actually, is
he? Where is he? Is he on holiday?
I don't want to spill secrets on air to however many people are watching. I can't actually say how many people are watching, which is a little bit unusual. But I believe he's away, so I may need you to fill in on Monday for the actual podcast. But we will do a transfer show as well. Just wanted to touch on, I know it's a match preview, just wanted to touch on Daniel Malin, whose name I've probably butchered there. David Ornstein, 2nd of January, not messing around, straight back to work after the bank holiday, breaking some transfer news in the morning. Villa have had a couple of bids in now for Malin. Would you expect them to get him? And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because on the face of it, it's a similar player to Bailey, but I think when Bailey doesn't play, Villa have struggled with width down that side. Villa James' future was addressed today as well at the press conference. Is that one that you think will get done?
I do think it will get done simply because he's keen to leave. Villa, I'll write about it if he does sign. Villa have shown interest in him for the last 3 windows. And Borussia Dortmund have got an asking price, and Villa will know that asking price. So I think if Villa want to do it, they'll get it done. But it's just a case of negotiating, really. And like we say, PSR is still a concern for Villa, so they need to be very careful in their outlay, especially if they want 2 more players after Marlin. But I think right now you'd probably be quite optimistic. But again, Villa have got a lot of options. I got obviously told a few weeks ago, and we've reported that Villa wanted that versatile attacker, and Marlon was obviously on the short list. So I think he's probably the most achievable, hence why they've and the one they like as well, hence why they've moved early. But yesterday was funny because it was my first real property day back for probably about 10 to 15 days. Obviously, I've done games, done pieces here and there. But yesterday, everything came, 15-hour day really in terms of transfers and everything. Everyone just seems to be getting back to life. And the fact that Villa started early, it's probably good for me in terms of I can have a quieter deadline day. But yeah, it was a bit of a rush.
Yeah, we've had a message here in the super chat and £5 given to us, Jacob. So why are you over £2.50? It's from Sir Unai Emery saying best Villa reporter going, Jacob. Thanks, mate. It's not complimentary to me there. Is it true you're on Sky Sports, Dan? Why spending £40 million on a left back wise? Why not keep Moreno? I guess Villa are. You've mentioned PSR, referenced PSR there. Villa spent. I mean, Maatsen feels to me like I've heard you use this term before, a project play. Long term, he's going to be Villa's left back. But when they are struggling to be able to spend money, is that a valid point? Although it looks like now they can spend money because they are bidding on a forward player.
Yeah, they can spend money, but at the same time, you're looking at the outgoings as well and the wage budget, and Lewis Dobber going out, Inning Jr. possibly going out, Louis Bowery, Jaden Philogene going out. So they are spending money, but they're trying to always balance the books. And looking back now, you probably say Villa would have been better served buying the right back. I think a lot of people have probably mentioned that comment throughout the season, but Maatsen's a player that Emery really liked, and Monchin and Damian Villegani really wanted to go out and get him. And although it was 35, 37 million, you got to remember that Kellerman, although in separate deals, did go the other way for 18 million. So you can kind of, that's how they view it, really. They don't view it as 37 million outright. They view it as, a money plus Kellerman. So I think he'll come good in the end. Luca Dean contract runs out 2026 as well. He's on a big wage as well. So I'm sure that they won't offer him any higher than what he's on now. So that would be a conversation to be had in the next 6 to 12 months, I imagine. And I think with Maatsen there, you can, if you want to, you can probably sell Luca Dean at some point next year or the year after. And hopefully by that point, Maatsen will be ready.
Okay, then let's finish with a hot/ice cold take. Your throw-in take in the last game was quite wild. I can't even remember what it was that I said. Can you remember what I said for the Brighton game?
I don't know. Did you say keep a clean sheet?
Nah, surely I wouldn't have been that stupid. Surely I wouldn't have predicted that.
Was your hot take Diego Carlos not taking his top off at the end of the first half or the full time?
No,
that didn't materialise.
No, I don't know. I don't know what I said anyway. I was probably wrong. I have got one. For this week, I was flitting between two. One of them was going to be Jacob Ramsey to score, but I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with somebody on the pitch, whether that be Yuri Tillemans or Jordan Ayer, to score against their old team.
Ooh.
That's my. I think that's a hot take. I think that's going to be a hot take for tomorrow. What's yours?
I'm going to go for Villa scoring from a traditional corner and Tyrone Mings scoring.
Ooh, nice.
Because Villa don't score many goals. They don't share them around, do they? So I
said this the other night. That was exactly what I said when I was on my own. We're not chipping in with enough goals from different areas. It's either the forward player, Duran or Watkins, or Morgan Rogers. And if they're not scoring, Barkley's got a good record for the minutes he's had. Other than that, no. Where are the goals? You've got to start chipping in other areas.
And tomorrow as well, Rogers and Duran, who basically make up half of the goals this season, are unavailable, aren't they? So I would like just to see Konsa or Mings pop up, and I think Mings will pop up.
Yeah, Konsa's got one, hasn't he? Scored against Wolves. Cash has got one from right back as well. But we've got to start chipping in with more goals from other areas. And Sir Unai Emery says, all love Mr. Bardell. Thanks for the content. And just in case you were wondering, I am on Sky on Tuesday at 1 o'clock and midday. Right then, Jacob, thanks ever so much for joining me. And no doubt you'll be joining me a few times next week, as I've just informed you. That would be great. And I look forward to speaking to you then. For those of you going to Villa Park, both Jacob and I will see you tomorrow. So do come and say hello if you see either of us milling around. Thanks to Luke Roper for sponsoring us. Don't forget the code TVV20 gets you 20% off. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could subscribe with your post notifications on, like and comment, that would be much appreciated. Spotify, leave a comment and make sure you subscribe via that medium and listen to everything all the way through. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a nice 5-star review and just say something nice in the review section if you're enjoying the content. Right then, let's go. Thank you very much to you again, Jacob. See you tomorrow at Villa Park. Only one thing left to say. As always, a big, massive